Hey everyone, today on the podcast we have Preston Wilson of Lone Star Gym Builders. Preston, thanks for hopping on the podcast again.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for having
you taking
me again.
time. Yeah, would you mind just starting off by giving us a quick reminder of who you are?
Sure. I'm Preston Wilson. About 7 years ago, I started a company called PW23 Fitness, just building fitness equipment in my garage. I had reached a point that long ago where I just didn't have time to go to a gym or, CrossFit box or boot camp. None of that. I could never make it. So started putting mine together slowly and then realized at some point I didn't have a lot of money, but I knew how to build things. So I built equipment. Then friends were just like, hey, can you build me one of those, like a plyo box or something? And it got out of hand. So here we are today, 7 years later. Instead of just building plyo boxes or storage racks, now we're going in and completely remodeling rooms in people's houses, turning them into, like a center of health and wellness and fitness and all that, whether it's the garage or recently a guy ripped out his whole media room that's upstairs. We took out all those fancy chairs, was hoping he'd give me one. He did not. Did all that and put in a pretty sick gym. So I've been doing this a long time, worked with a lot of different companies and people and just kind of been there and seen it and done it if it has to do with a home gym.
Cool. And like I mentioned, this is Preston's second time on this podcast. Last time he went basically through his entire story. So I'll plug that in the notes of this episode. Definitely worth checking out. Very interesting story. The focus on today's podcast is starting a home gym business, just like Preston did. And he's going to kind of help us through those steps and talk about some things that we should stay away from, what he would probably do if he had to do it again, etc. So number one, though, Preston, can you start us off by just telling us what types of people should consider starting a business like this?
Yeah. This is an industry that's blowing up regardless. And everywhere you go, there are people that need help putting all of this stuff together. Even though the home gym industry is notoriously DIY, there are people that can't do it. They don't have the tools or they just don't want to, we can all make a hamburger, but sometimes we want to go out to eat and let a professional do it and do the dishes. So the people that I found that have worked with me, that have worked out the best, number one, are actually into fitness and working out, lifting, whatever that is. They're honestly going to be the people best fit for this because they have a passion for it. They already know how to talk about it. So, it becomes less of trying to sell something and just having a conversation with somebody. The people that I work with now, like Nikki, who has worked with me the longest, she's a trainer. Our installer, April, she's also a trainer and owns her own CrossFit gym down in San Marcos, Texas, called Southwest Training. Check them out. And, and Michelle that I work with, she's also a lifter. So all of these people already had an interest in what we're doing. So I think the best fit for these kind of people are people that are into fitness, are, pretty handy with tools and things like that. Maybe they built their own gym, whether at home or a commercial gym. And then, so trainers that are just building up their clientele, this is an amazing opportunity for them to jump in their area. I know a lot of retired military folks have reached out to me because they're all into fitness and they're all handy and they're like, hey, what could I do to get started? But really the two things is kind of being into the culture and knowing how to use tools. Those are going to be our best candidates there.
Got it. So what would you say are the biggest pros, or what do you like the most about doing this sort of business?
The biggest pro for me is it's something that I'm passionate about. I already talk to people about, and it has a low barrier of entry to get into it. It's not like getting a, McDonald's franchise or something like that. You can really kind of work your way into it. One of the biggest pros is that when you're just getting started, it can be a side hustle, as the kids say, or, just a part-time thing to make extra money while you're learning and figuring out the kinks. But I would say that, the biggest benefit is just getting to be a part of somebody's like fitness journey, whether they're just getting started or, they're already a pro athlete, and you just get to stay in that culture and meet people and all that. But on the practical side, the biggest thing is, again, you're setting things up, kind of becoming your own boss, so you can work at it on your own schedule, put your own flair on it. And like I said, if you're not ready to just dive in, you can get started slowly, and that's key.
Got it. What about something to be wary of? Cons?
I would say the biggest cons is jumping in over your head, just kind of wanting to do it because you did it at your house, and then, putting it out there and all that. And you just kind of end up with things that you can't do or you don't know how to do. And you're like, oh shit, like I probably shouldn't have agreed to this job. But it's not a job with a lot of cons. It's not something that you have to commit to 100% right off the bat. And I'll kind of talk about how to get started easily and for little to no money and part-time. But I would say the other big cons are, the times people are buying fitness equipment, especially in a package situation like they do from us. Because when we go in, they're not just buying a barbell from me. They're buying, a cage and barbells and storage and plates and flooring and mirrors and everything. So it's this big project. And those kind of projects, until you kind of build up that pipeline, there can be some dead zones in there. For instance, you would think, in January, when it's New Year's resolution time, that's when everybody's going to be doing this. But the reality is that most people are financially exhausted at that point. And they're just bought gifts and they're just like, I need a minute. Mm-hmm. But then it starts picking back up, like everything does when people start getting income tax and things like that. So you have to be able to kind of weather those down times. And if you think, you're just going to stay busy 100% of the time, especially when you get started, that can be a little rough.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so, you went through pros, cons, who should even consider it. If you're still listening, you're probably you probably understand everything going into, or like, it's for you, or at least you're still considering this. So what you mentioned first steps, what would you say the first step would be for most?
The first step is to look at realistically, where you're at in terms of, financially and really wanting to start a business and things, because, even if you're starting part-time, some of these projects that people hire you to do can take a day or 3 days or a week or something like that. So you want to make sure that you can commit, that time to it. I would say another big first step is if you're in Austin, Texas, do not start this company. This is my sandbox. Now, another big step is really is thinking about, one, the name of your company. What's fun about this, I've seen other companies kind of pop up and they want to go with the the fitness culture and name their companies something tough like Rogue or Titan. Mm-hmm. What you're really looking to do is think of a name that tells where you are and what you do. So the first company I founded was called Texas Garage Gym Builders, and those are all keywords. There was nothing creative about that. I branched off now, working with the team I had forever, and I'm Lone Star Gym Builder. So it still has something to do with, where I'm at. You really want to start thinking about those things up front. What's going to make you the most visible? The other thing to get started is if you have a home gym or you've worked on them or something, is just kind of start looking at those basic tools that you need. Power tools are your friend. You can definitely go put together a gym with a socket set, but it's going to suck. So just putting together those basic things like a drill and driver and a stud finder and the basics. That's really all you need. Then I would say another good first step is test the waters a little bit. See if you even like doing it. I've had a lot of people come work with me or for me or something. They kind of romanticize the idea about it, and then they go into a garage that's 95 degrees and they're not working out, so it's not their music with pre-workout and looking in the mirror and feeling tough. You're unboxing things. It's not as much fun. So a good way to test that out is download that app called Thumbtack, or you can go to thumbtack.com. It's just like a gig thing. They have a special section on there for fitness equipment assembly. And, just start taking a few of those. People are ordering. A big one that people order that are a little intimidated by are like PRX, those racks going in. They're just a little confused. They've never done it. They want someone else to come in and do it and make sure that it's upright and safe. And so you'll probably immediately start getting some jobs there, especially if that's what you say you're specializing in is fitness equipment assembly. I would say that's probably the best way to go in and test the waters. After that, I mean, it's really like you got your tools and maybe your truck in order. You can just start a real simple website where people can find you with, if they type in the search engine gym builder near me, and yours comes up, that's going to get you a lot of communication. And then, just the Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever it is that you do, if you start that with your brand and your logo and just tell people what you do, things will start rolling in. I mean, especially if you're in an area that doesn't already have a service like this, or they don't have a non-super corporate service that does it. Because there are companies that'll do it all over the nation, but they're mostly looking at things that are really high end or big commercial projects that the common homeowner is just not in that price range. After you've done, some of those installs, you like it. The next thing is, you can start looking at maybe some distributors or manufacturers or something that are near you. You would definitely want to look at, if you plan on getting out of just doing the installation of equipment that people have, then you want to find companies that are reputable, have good reviews and things like that, and try to work out some sort of reseller or distribution agreement with them where maybe you can get some wholesale pricing based on, what you believe you're going to make in sales, that year. So that would be the next step. Once you're like, man, I like doing this, then just start looking for a distributor and, basically put yourself in the middle of the circle and kind of branch out from there, because logistically it gets tough when you try to start ordering from people that are outside of your state or something like that.
That makes sense. I really like how you, I know you kind of probably learned this the hard way, but you started out with a more unique name with PW23.
Right.
Fitness.
Alexis.
Yeah. So you started off with a more unique name, PW23 Fitness, made it more of a searchable item, so that it came up on Google if somebody was targeting. And then you also mentioned you didn't really go you don't really recommend some like hardcore brand, like the Titans, because I'm guessing because you want to just be more of like have more of an informative vibe, considering the type of people who are reaching out for stuff like this probably need, like they're probably a little lost. So that kind of branding probably helps. Is that right?
It's tremendously helpful. You know, we all want to name our band. You know, we all want it to be really cool. But the fact of the matter is, you're just trying to get out there what it is that you do. So, like, if you're in Idaho, then be Idaho Gym Builders. You know, it's not hard. That makes it a lot easier. People can find you, and then you know your brand. You can make a logo that you like. You know, and everybody can just follow the basic rules on that, make it legible and not stupid.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but people are able to find you at that point, and it makes you, it definitely puts you in a place where you're more consultative than, you know, just trying to show up and be a brand. People are like, oh, okay, these guys know what they're doing, that they're in my area, and you can get, it just keeps it simple and makes it a lot easier for you and people to find you.
Makes sense. You also mentioned a like wide variety of jobs. Can you give me a quick explanation of what like a typical job may look like, and then maybe what some other like more fringe jobs are, or some odd requests that you might get?
I mean, it brings up a good point that when you're getting started in this, especially in the fitness world, if you're on any of those like Facebook groups or any of that, you have to get rid of your prejudice against different disciplines. You know, if you're a power lifter and you hate CrossFit, guess what? You're about to go over to like, you know, a CrossFit person's house, and they're not going to hire you if you're just like, CrossFit's dumb. You know, same thing with any of that. So a pretty standard gym, you know, for everybody, whether they're a CrossFitter or a power lifter or a strongman or just somebody trying to get in shape or whatever. Our most standard is we go in, put down a few stall mats, you know, 4 or 5, and make a little workout area. We put up a retractable rack with just a barbell, about 250 pounds of weight, a bench, and, you know, just those real standard items they need to go in there and get a workout in, no matter what it is that they do. That one's really popular. That's an install that we can go in and do in 2 or 3 hours. In it, you know, for the customer, they're really only out of pocket anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,500, depending on if they add a lot of different accessories like, you know, plyo boxes and medicine balls and things like that. So those are going to be sort of your bread and butter, something that you can go knock out in a morning, get somebody set up, and that they're going to be really happy with it. And I always tell people like that too, because they don't always have a huge budget to get started, but they know they want to get going. And I just tell people, you know, garage gyms or home gyms are like tattoos. As long as you got room, you can add more. So if you don't go in and try to oversell somebody, they're definitely going to call you back and say, hey, I saved up for this or that, and or I'm ready to go ahead and add on. And that's what you want are those people that trust you enough that they're returning to you, as opposed to you telling them that and being like, no, dude, you really need a GHD. You know, they'll come back. Some of the more particular jobs that we've done would be like more of the big remodels that we do that are like inside of a house and not in a garage, where we're going in and taking the carpet out, you know, putting mirrors up, and then putting all that equipment in, where they're not just getting a standard lifting cage. It might be like an all-in-one machine with leg presses in there, and you know, all the way to like ballet bars and stall bars. You really never know, because a lot of times what you learn is it's not just one person in the house using the
Yeah.
gym. It's a husband and a wife, and they both want to do different style workouts. Maybe, the husband's doing Pilates and the wife is a strongman. So, you never know what you're going to run into. Right now, the cooler jobs that we're doing are those shred sheds where we're, just putting a separate unit in a backyard because they don't have space in their garage. I'm running out of space because my daughter has all the toys, all of them. And but going in, yeah, you can see it. It's all there. She's just like, "Don't touch my Jeep, Dad." So yeah, we'll go in and put those in. So I don't know. You'll run across just some crazy ideas that people have. One of my favorite ones to do is go in the backyard and put down a slab of concrete and then just build a giant rig on top of it. So
yeah, that's sweet.
It's going to vary, and people have crazy ideas.
Cool. So I would be curious how many, that first basic setup that you described with the rack, the 200-pound plates, stall mats, etc. What percentage is that?
I would say a system like that is probably 50% of what we do. Just that standard average setup. Like you see those packages, when you go online and the bots have your number, man, they're showing you all the different companies that sell those packages like PRX. So, that's one of the big things that we're doing is going in there and, putting things on the wall, making sure they can still park in there and all that. And I think that's what most people are going for.
Gotcha. And also the most intimidating to set up.
Yeah, retractable rack's tricky, and every garage out there is on a slope, and so that's the big conversation a lot of times. Like, what do I do about the slope? Like, and so they don't. Those people don't want to deal with that. They want to ask you, and you be the professional and let them know what your opinion is.
Got it. What about the ordering? Do people typically ship it to their house, or do you do that for them? Ship it to your wherever your setup?
Yeah. So the way that we operate, because we do these big packages and installs, is I work with several different vendors. I work with Granite Fitness out of Austin. Sometimes we work with Fringe Sport, and we work a lot with Bolt Fitness Supply out of Houston. Part of the service that we offer is that we order everything. All of that ordering goes through us. We go pick it up, stage it at our location, and get it ready to take out to the customer's house. So what I try to do is make this super easy, one-stop shop for the customer. All they need to do is talk to me. They don't need to do any of the work. And them also at the shop, before we go out there, we can start doing things like, putting benches together, which is a little tedious, and, just having things ready to go.
In your own space.
Show up. Yeah. Because it's a lot easier when you're doing it in your space with your air condition on than, when you're in the garage and you're just like, oh my God, how many bolts does this bench have? I just want to get out of here. So ordering it, that's the thing. But some customer, like if we don't have if we're not a vendor for a certain company that the client wants, like if they want Rogue equipment, we don't sell Rogue equipment. Rogue doesn't offer those kind of distributorships as far as I know. So those customers will order it to their house, which is important because if they didn't buy it from us, we're not going to order it and then have to handle any warranty stuff down the road. It's a lot easier for me to handle warranty situations with my trusted vendors than anybody else.
That makes sense. Cool. How about some mistakes that people need to be weary of as they, kind of start getting going?
The biggest mistakes that I had was, well, one, when I first got started, a long time ago, my pricing would be a little off. I didn't want to scare people off. So I was undervaluing a little bit of what I did. But at the end of the day, you know, wherever you're at, this isn't super competitive. It is competitive, but it's not super competitive. So you don't need to be the person that kind of drops your pants first to win a deal. You can, you know, you need to be able to speak to the value that you offer and the services that you offer. And you need to be able to back that up. So it's important to really think about, you know, what your goals are financially and set your pricing accordingly. At the end of the day, a home gym or garage gym is sort of a luxury item. It's not like a water heater. So people that are doing it, they don't mind paying a little bit extra to make sure it's done right, and make sure that you throw away all of the packaging waste. That's probably one of the things people are the most excited about is I'll take it all away. And they're just like, oh, thank God. That's the biggest one. Some other mistakes, again, I would say is being biased in any way towards, you know, where someone wants their gym, what kind of workouts they do, and just trying to sell them something that they don't want. You know, trying to tell them, well, this is better. And you do have to be the professional in there and, you know, really explain to people the difference in things, but ultimately let them make the decision. Because I go into a lot of houses where people want to buy too much, and then I measure and I'm like, it's just not going to work. You know, that your barbell is 7 foot long and you're going to be like squatting into your treadmill over here. And, you know, and, you know, if one of my favorite customers ever, she's a lady, she's about 70 years old. She's an amazing woman, but she got into fitness just a couple years ago, or lifting a couple of years. And when I say lifting, like she goes to a powerlifting gym 3 times a week. And then she put in this tank of a rack from Texas Strength Systems. And then last time I was over there, she probably had 500 pounds of weight. And I'm just like, what are you doing? But when I go to, she's doing it because it's a hobby. But when I go to some people's house and maybe they're just getting started lifting, I'm like, you don't need that much stuff. Yeah. You know, you don't. You're going to try deadlifting 300 pounds because you saw it on the internet, and then you're never going to use this gym because your back is out. So, you know, being the professional without being argumentative is a big deal. Another mistake that a lot of people make, I luckily didn't because I don't really subscribe to the notion, is any hacks like gym, you know, business hacking or stuff like that, where you're trying to, you know, streamline and whatnot, like cut it out. It's work. And, you know, a big thing is people say, well, I don't know what all I need in my gym. I don't know what will fit. You need to go over there to that customer's house and do a consultation with them. It's not a sales call. You're not trying to sell them anything right then. But you are looking at the space, talking them through what'll fit, what won't, you know, like, your ceiling's not high enough for this or that. And, you know, what I've seen a lot of companies do is they try to do those like virtually or not at all. Yeah. They just try to they become more of an order taker where they're like, hey, you know, what do you have in mind? Then they just send a quote based on that and deal with whether it'll fit or not whenever they get over there. So it's all just about connection and doing the actual work and not trying to think of a way to make it easier on yourself.
Cool. Makes sense.
I mean, there's a ton of mistakes people can make. Yeah. I certainly did, but the biggest ones are based around just valuing yourself, you know, becoming the professional and knowledgeable in every discipline and learning about equipment from, you know, not just squat racks and things like that, but down to stall bars and what kind of wood they're made of and things like that. another mistake that a lot of people make, I think, is getting too competitive just automatically, and kind of like they see somebody doing something similar to them and then just being like, well, that's my competition. Because there's another company here north of Austin in Gerald called CTX Home Gyms, and Dylan and his wife Alex own it, Dylan Ivy, and they're amazing people. And when they popped out, when I first saw them kind of on Instagram and stuff like that, for a second I was just like, hey, like, what are you doing? But I don't know who reached out first, but eventually we did end up meeting each other, and now we work together on lots of projects, because what they do is find kind of the bigger machines or cardio machines, things like that, maybe from a big liquidated gym or something. They buy that, refurbish it, and resell it. And so it really became a real conducive relationship, because they have great prices on, like, right now they've got some like Woodway treadmills for extremely inexpensive. The other thing is they can deliver that stuff and set it up. And if you're by yourself, or there's just two people and you're trying to move some giant commercial elliptical into somebody's house, it's a nightmare if you're not set up to do it. So we work with them all the time, and they've got one of the best teams. So I would say be open to whoever's around you that may be popping up, because you may be able to help each other out. And then, on the other side, start making friends with lots of different kinds of contractors, mirror people, flooring people, lighting people, because there's so many people that are like, I hate the lights in my garage. So, start networking, don't close yourself off, and make some friends.
Cool. Were there any certifications that you felt like you needed to get going?
Uniquely for me, like, I had done construction my whole life, and I didn't feel that I needed anything to be certified in, except for not being an asshole whenever I got started. But there are there's a assembler's certification you can get for assembling things. Things like that might help you out a little bit. I don't know that they're going to teach you anything new, but it's certainly something that looks good on your resume when you're talking to somebody. And then there's there's some kind of website out there where you can sign up and become like an official assembler, and if a company sells something, they can refer you as the person that'll go do the install. Gotcha. And you got to have that certification to do so. But I would say, the biggest certification you're going to get is going to be your reputation for the level of service and the quality of service that you offer.
Got it.
On the flip side of that, I don't touch anything that needs an actual certification. So if somebody's like, will you take that ceiling fan down? I'm like, absolutely not.
Got it.
I'm not doing anything that'll mess anything up that I can't readily fix.
Yeah, that makes sense, and is another reason that it's not necessarily the most difficult thing to get into.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, when you first get started, you're just going to be going and the hardest thing that you're going to have to do is, learn to use a stud finder. When you put up a rack on the wall, that's going to be the hardest thing. It'll get harder. People will have new ideas, but there's nothing super complicated that you got to do.
Yeah. You just learn as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, anything else we should talk about before we close this?
I would just say, look in the area that you're in. If you're getting started, if you live in a small town, you're most likely going to be working in the next closest big town or metropolitan area. So just, make sure that you're able to do that. Like I said before, keep your messaging and your logo and your name and all that just super clear for other people. If you're just curious about getting started, I do highly suggest going and signing up on thumbtack.com and just get a few of those jobs under your belt to see if you like doing it. And then, yeah, I mean, just kind of make friends. The best way that I got out there in the beginning is I didn't know how to internet. So I made flyers and I just went around to gyms in my town and I said, hey, I'm not trying to sell anything, just passing out a flyer, introducing myself. If you need anything, new equipment or maybe something worked on or installed, let me know. I'm happy to do it. I would say the biggest advice I can give you for getting started is keep it simple. And as you get going, scale appropriately. Don't bite off more than you can chew, or don't be afraid to tell someone, I haven't done that, but I will give it a go. Or that's not really something that I think I can help you with. Don't be afraid to do that, because once you get going, it really only takes, if you're new, like only one bad review of somebody being mad at you for something to really kind of hinder the process moving forward. But other than that, I mean, I'm always open. If you want to message me on Instagram at Lone Star Gym Builders, I can answer questions. And actually, probably in a few months, I'll be publishing like a more in-depth guide on how to get started with this. That'll include what tools you need, different companies that you might be able to reach out to get a distributorship with. That's another thing. If you are looking to sell equipment, you want to, margins in this business are not huge. You're not buying for $1 and selling it for $2. It's just not going to happen. Even manufacturers aren't really doing that. You need to do your research on companies, and again, let go of biases, because there might be a company out there that just on the internet you've heard people say bad things about, but if you go visit them, you may see something completely different. Most likely you're going to run into the owner of a company that takes a lot of pride in what they do and pride in what they're selling, but mistakes happen, or maybe they were just getting started and didn't have everything the way that they needed it. So, look around, find the best equipment you can, not the cheapest equipment you can, and make sure your customers understand, like, hey, I sell this equipment because I actually believe in it. And the other thing I think a lot of people run into is like, well, what if I started getting my own equipment made and stuff like that? And it's like, it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be. So you might want to just let someone that already knows how to do that, do it. That way. But other than that, the reason I wanted to come on here and talk about it is a lot of people ask me about it, and it's not a hard thing to get started in. You just want to get started and try and provide good service, and it'll build on itself from there. And then, if you have questions, I can always help, answer them. I've done it for 7 years, and, I've been through, what works, what doesn't work, and all that. And I got a pretty good idea what's going on with it.
Sounds good. Yeah. We'll plug that into the description of the podcast, and make sure to go follow Lone Star Builders and Preston.
Lone Star Gym Builders.
Lone Star Gym Builders. Go follow Lone Star Gym Builders, and make sure to reach out to Preston with any of your questions. Good luck to anybody who takes this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on and letting me talk about it. I think this is an industry of the future, and it's something that people need help with. And right now, while people are really branching out and trying to start their own businesses, this is a good one. And I'm not a gatekeeper of this information. So I appreciate you letting me come on and at least give a small guideline on how people can get going.
No, this was great. For sure. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jake.